Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri, and in a bit we'll be turning attention to what many are calling no longer growing tensions in the Middle East, but a full-blown war in the Israeli-Lebanese border, and with reports of escalating violence and tragic casualties. Most recently, Lebanon's army announced that 3 of its soldiers, including an officer, were killed in an Israeli airstrike during an evacuation in the southern village of Yatir. This comes amidst ongoing Israeli ground raids targeting what they call Hezbollah positions, with over 160 targets struck in the last day. Concerns have also been raised internationally, particularly by the US, regarding the safety of the Lebanese army and UN peacekeepers in the region. And to help us unpack the complexities of this unfolding conflict and its broader implications in the Middle East, we are joined by UK-based war correspondent, director of the Center for Foreign Policy Analysis, and renowned author, Professor Paul Moorcraft. Professor Moorcraft, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time here on Salam Media. Really, really appreciate it.
Good morning to you.
I think maybe our point of departure can be just your quick analysis on the current crisis in the Middle East. Many are saying there's still growing tensions, but you have others that are saying, well, we've passed a point of tensions. This is now a full-blown out war occurring in the region, and from now onwards, it can only spread.
I think you're right. It's gone from a war between the Israeli Defense Force and Hamas in Gaza. That's gone on for a year, and it's now too late, even if there was a ceasefire, to control the escalating wars in the region. Lebanon is really taking off. And what worries me is, what is the next stage? It could be a closure of the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, which will impact the economies worldwide. It could be a third intifada in the West Bank. That could be a real crisis. Israel is already fighting on 6 or 7 fronts. But what is happening, and there's a strong relationship between what's happening in the war in Europe and the war in the Middle East. I'm not sure that the Western system, the economic system, can survive 2 major wars. And at the same time, China is, although it doesn't want to undermine the economy because it's a big part of the international economy, at the same time, China is not actually invading Taiwan. It's strangling it, it's squeezing it with its exercises. So yeah, we've got a major international series of conflicts. This is the most dangerous situation since 1945, and certainly I would say more dangerous than the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962.
The U.S. has expressed concern over Israeli airstrikes against the Lebanese armed forces and a host of other civilian targets. Yet Israel continues its operations in the south. How do you see this affecting the dynamics between the U.S. And Israel? You have the American elections that are coming up in the not so distant future, and again and again, Israel has seemingly becoming defiant of, its main funder, which is the United States of America. And there's also growing concerns within America itself from a large part of its citizens for America to stop being, such a close ally to Israel, to stop funding their war in the Middle East, essentially.
Everybody's waiting for Godot, to use that phrase, the play, waiting for Godot, waiting for the new president. And increasingly, it looks like it's going to be Trump, according to the polls. But who knows? And at the moment, you've got a interregnum, a lame duck president who doesn't know, whether he can walk straight, let alone think straight. So it's a very difficult period for the Americans. And certainly the Russians are waiting out what's going to happen. They want to see if Trump wins. Putin feels that Trump is a better choice, though it's not always so obvious. And the Americans are doing the same. Now, what happened on April the 13th this year is very crucial, because on that date, the Iranians attacked in response to an attack on their embassy in Damascus. The Iranians sent over 300 missiles and drones into Israel. And what happened was very unusual. They had 4 or 5 days' notice. So the Americans coordinated not only the usual suspects, Britain and France and so on, but Arab countries like Egypt and Jordan and UAE. It's often forgotten how much the Arab states, particularly Egypt, loathe and detest Hamas. Palestinians are much more popular outside the region than actually in it in some cases. So there was a coalition to shoot down the Iranian blitzkrieg. And now we're waiting. The Iranians are going to get another dose because there was 300 much more severe ballistic missile attack on Israel in the last few weeks. And the Americans are coordinating with the Israelis as to whether the target should be nuclear. And the Americans say, no, don't take out the nuclear facilities. The Americans are also saying, don't take out the oil installations. All that remains then is the military installations. But there's a discussion, and it's taken a while. The Israelis have not yet retaliated, and it's expected to be a very serious retaliation. At the same time, Iran and Russia are coordinating, and also to make it more complicated, North Korea has stepped into the arena and allegedly said about initially a first batch of 3,000 troops. They're good troops into Russia, presumably to fight in the Kursk salient, where the Ukrainians have actually entered Russia and taken a pocket of territory. So you've got all these things happening at the same time, and nobody wants to do anything before the election results. And Netanyahu is using this period, this interregnum period, to say, right, let's do the job. He's killed most of the Hamas leaders and now the Hezbollah leaders, and wants to destroy Hezbollah. But the real purpose, I've interviewed Netanyahu a few times, although not very recently. He wants to destroy the main existential threat to Israel, which is Iran. That is his main goal, and that's what's going to happen in the next few days, because Iran is actually quite fragile in economic terms, although it seems quite a powerful presence in the Middle East. Its economic structure is very fragile, and there's been consistent riots and dissent. Whether the Israelis can do enough damage to the economy to topple the theocratic Islamist regime, I don't know.
I want us to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to focus on this seemingly Israeli strategy to kind of eliminate the leaders of some of these movements. We saw, the killing of Yahya Sinwar just last week, and there's been a host of other leaders from Hezbollah and from Hamas, which have using Israelis' words, quote unquote, eliminated. And if this strategy, what could be the possible, aim for it? What do they want to achieve after this? Do they feel like these resistance movements will be weakened in a way if they use the proverbial cutting the snake from the head? Or is this, a strategy that not only, gives birth to more leaders coming out of these movements, but also kind of fuels, the resistance and the fire that they have to continue fighting Israel in all the different fronts that they are involved in. But we'll touch on that a bit after the break.
Stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
The kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning, or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, now we cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic Sharia and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Hey Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No, Ba, you didn't.
Oh no. Now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Randry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Randry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
After the recent attacks on Gaza, many families have been displaced with their homes left destroyed. Through your donations, our teams are on the ground in Gaza, providing support and delivering necessary aid to families affected. The people of Gaza need your help. Give hope. Donate today to Penny Appeal South Africa. www.pennyappeal.org.za 031 1100 573.
We are here on the ground with many appeal organizations in Gaza.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salailo Makwidira. The time is 22 minutes past 9, and we're still having a very, very interesting conversation with UK-based war correspondent and director at the Center for Foreign Policy Analysis, and he's also author, Professor Paul Moorcraft. And we're just taking a deep dive into what's currently happening in the Middle East, and I think the overarching theme here, and what I'm gathering from Professor Moorcraft, is the fact that we've went past a point of it being tensions in the region. It is now seemingly becoming a full-blown out war, and there are so many intricate details to it that we need to unpack as it develops and it morphs into whatever it can be in the future. Professor Moorcraft, thank you so much for staying with us. Really, really appreciate it. I think one thing that I wanted us to discuss before we went to that short break is this strategy from the Israeli forces to kind of assassinate and kill leaders of whether it's Hamas and Hezbollah. I think we've seen a few since October the 7th, and most notably, of course, being just last week, Yahya Sinwar. We've seen also the assassination of Ibrahim Akil and also Ismaili Haniya, which were killed since the start of the war, but there are plenty more others. This strategy, what do you make of it? Because I'd like to throw, I think, parallels to what was happening here in South Africa during apartheid. Is you would have the apartheid government, arrest and kill political leaders. You had the likes of Nelson Mandela who were arrested, Steve Biko, Robert Subuka, and a whole host of them were killed. And this did not in any way, affect, or touch the spirit of South Africans. It kind of almost rejuvenated them. You had more people joining the MK. You had more people going out to neighboring countries like Mozambique to get training. The ANC went underground and seemed to be getting stronger. And then that's when the arms struggle was kind of coined during that time. What do you make of the strategy from Israel? Do you think there's an end game to it, or is one that would most likely backfire and not bear any fruits for them?
I'm going to pull rank here because I'm a lot older than you, and I went through the apartheid period and reported on it. I'm not sure there are that many comparisons, although Israel is often accused of being an apartheid state. The difference is, there are many, is that Israel sees itself in an existential threat situation. That's going back to your point about decapitation strategy. It certainly undermined the ANC with all the leaders, many of the leaders in Robben Island and so forth. But I think it's different in the Middle East because Israel feels if it loses once, it's finished. And that's the paradox, because Israel has had the best intelligence service in the world, probably. And that's why it was caught napping on October the 7th, although technically that wasn't Mossad. Mossad works internationally. They were behind all the telephone bombs, the walkie-talkie bombs with Hezbollah. Mossad is still very, very efficient. It was internal military intelligence, which was arrogant and misogynistic, actually. It didn't listen to a lot of the females who were monitoring the observation points in Gaza. So there was a major intelligence failure, the worst since the Israeli state was formed. But that is only part of the intelligence explanation. Decapitation, does it work? The Americans tried it in Iraq to get rid of Saddam. They failed initially. Excuse me. And we didn't do it. There's always a theory. Why didn't the Western Allies try to kill Adolf Hitler? Well, the thing is, he was making so many mistakes that, as Napoleon said, if your enemy's making mistakes, pull back and let them carry on. And it was felt that if Hitler was assassinated, then a military leadership could take over, formal military leaderships. So, but the main problem with decapitation strategy is that you can't kill an idea. Hamas is an idea. It's the idea in Palestinian state, and that will continue and expand, as you said. But at the moment, so many leaders amongst Hezbollah and Hamas are being killed that Hamas is not even announcing its new leader because it's just going to be a target for Israeli intelligence. So the war, we all know that the war will not end until there is the two-state solution. And that's why something I referred to earlier when I said that Arab and Israel and the Americans and Western allies got together to defend Israel against the Iranian blitzkrieg. That could happen again. There could be a coalition of Arab states and Western states, because Gaza has to be rebuilt. And who has the money? Saudis, obviously, and others. There has to be a political solution. You cannot solve this continuing military problem by military means. The Israeli Defense Force has fought a very effective February, it's called, fighting in built-up areas. And although people would say, as certainly the Americans are saying, they've gone far too far, there's 42,000 Palestinians killed. But the Israelis have managed to decapitate and undermine most of Hamas because it does not want Hamas to return in a governing position. Who could replace it? Has to be Palestinian. And the Americans and the British, it's not well known, have been training and preparing the Palestinian Authority, both its officials and its military and police, to take over in Gaza. But in the meanwhile, the day after, who's going to police this? The UN, Arab League. So Hamas strategy, the decapitation is a temporary military approach to what is fundamentally a political problem. But the other thing is that people forget, and I mentioned it on your program, that the Hamas leadership, most of them were very pious Muslims. Islamists, Hafitz rather, excuse my Arabic, he had, Sinwar had actually learned the whole Quran. He was a very religious man, charismatic. And the idea that obviously he's Shaheed, he's a martyr, and so there's a different response to the killing of an Islamist leader. and there will be many to follow him who will take over. But as a structure and an organization, the Israelis have pretty much undermined Hamas. So it's time perhaps to call it a day in Gaza and say, look, release the hostages. And Hamas has fought long and hard, still sending rockets, still holding the hostages, despite the rubblescape and all the bones and blood that have been left in amongst all the masonry. It is time for a ceasefire. Whether that will impact on Lebanon, I don't know. It's, as I said, it's probably too late. We won't have any major decision until after the presidency. We've got 2 weeks to go to see who the next president is. There might then be changes. But decapitation has been an intelligent success in both Lebanon and in Gaza, but not an overall military or strategic achievement.
I would like us to, before we wrap up, just move on to, the southern front in Lebanon, Hezbollah. Thus far, what have you made of them and how, they've essentially fought back the Israeli forces, how strategic they've been, and just generally the amount of firepower and resources you think they have, and would they be able to hold their own against the US-backed Israel?
The IDF fought in the 2006 war, fought Hezbollah, and it's the first time really that in combat between the Israelis and Arab states, there were no white flags, there was no quarter given. Hezbollah fought really hard and were quite successful against some of the best Israeli special forces. That was why Israel has been reluctant to do it again, because Hezbollah is much more powerful than Hamas was at the start of the war, and it's the largest non-state army in the world. Lots of missiles, lots of support, and that's why it's now different, because Hezbollah has been gravely undermined, not only because of the decapitation, but they fought well in the south, but they cannot defeat. They don't have an air force. They cannot fight back against the Israeli air force. And so the deterrence factor of Hezbollah attacking Israel is now that card has been played, that tool has been used. And the Iranians are quite surprised that their proxy, with many people see this as not as an Arab-Israeli conflict, but Iran versus the West. That's a part of the Israeli narrative, but there's a truth to it. So the Hezbollah have fought well and will continue to fight, but they have been really savagely undermined. And now the Israelis are hitting their economic structure, hitting the financial, the banks and so on in Beirut to stop the supply of money to the Hezbollah fighters. So this is likely to go on for a while, but it partly depends, as I said, we're back to the American elections, but I suspect that the Israelis will attack Iran before we get a new American president. And will that be nuclear or not? Because Netanyahu believes that the Iranians pose a major, major threat to Israel. It's nuclear weapons. Of course, Israel has nuclear weapons as well, has a bomb in the basement. And I'm going to give you a prediction. It could be that before the election results in America, the Iranians might just say, we too have a bomb in the basement. We are going to use our nuclear weapons tactical nuclear weapons, if the Israelis attack our nuclear infrastructure. That might happen. That's a possibility.
And it will be a really, really interesting possibility, Professor Moorcraft. We're going to leave it on that note. I really, really appreciate you giving us your time and joining us on Salam Media today. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
There you have it, Professor Paul Leslie Moorcraft, just unpacking some of the intricacies and some of the important little underlying tones of the ongoing instability in the Middle East and what is seemingly becoming a full-blown out war in the region. It's going to be interesting, some of the developments that will be happening as we approach the end of the year and as the United States of America also lead up to their elections and a new leader of quote-unquote the free world is elected. So yeah, really interesting times ahead, and here on Salam Media we'll continue to give you the latest and all that you need to know from that region. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.
We are here in the middle of a Zahra neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is already destroyed. More than 17 towers are down. Here, as you can see, the firefighters trying their best to help. The people are still under the rubble. A lot of the people.
Join Hamza on his exclusive South African tour as he shares his personal experiences, never before seen footage, and powerful insights on the ongoing genocide in Gaza. This is more than just a talk. It's an invitation to witness Gaza through the lens of Hamza Sha'alan. Don't miss this opportunity to meet the photojournalist who brought Gaza's pain and perseverance to the world in its darkest moments. Follow Salam Media on social media pages for more on this tour and be part of the conversation.